I think I'm not a fan of in terms of winning championships. I don't think that style is ever going to win championships. But at the same time, you have to keep your team's head above water to win games. So you have to do what you have to do to win games, and he's doing it. Right now, I think.
So are you saying you don't think James Harden and the Rockets, as constructed, can win a title?
Not with this style of play, it won't win. Right, with one player dominating the ball. Now when you have Chris Paul come back and you have more movement to the offense, where you move guys around, where you're harder to find.
And Chris Paul's back more in the...
Yeah, because listen, if you take one player, you put him at the top of the key, or you put him on the wing, and you're running screen rolls, you're always in front of the defense. The defense can key on that, particularly in the playoffs. And that's easy to defend. Yeah. It's easy to defend. Now,
so as you guys remember, Kobe had made this take during Harden's hot stretch in 2018, in the season in which he won his first MVP award, and he was on a scoring streak regarding the most consecutive games scoring 30 points or more from an individual player. This is the first season they had acquired CP3, and this is when Durant was back on the Warriors and the league was still within the Golden State chokehold dynasty. And keep in mind, Kevin Durant is a 30-point scorer whose key reason for wanting to go to Golden State in the first place was to play team-oriented and fun basketball. With the acquisition of CP3, the Houston Rockets at this point in time had the aspirations of winning a championship. And in the previous clip, when Kobe was asked whether this style of play would win him a title, he answered accordingly. And at that point in time, it was semi an unpopular opinion because even though Golden State had the talent that they had, James Harden was one of the better players in the league and known for being able to take Houston past their expectations due to his scoring prowess alone. While it was always questionable whether his isolation scoring was the prettiest to see, especially with his foul baiting tactics and just the stagnant offense that it led to Houston having, it was questions whether it would work towards a championship. But again, with Harden putting up the performances he was putting up in the standings in which Houston would finish the regular season at, his level of play would always have Houston at the top of their conference, so it was pretty hard to put them outside of the conversation of being contenders. Without harping too long on what happened in that specific season, they finished the regular season with a record of 65-17. And are remembered today as being one of the greatest teams to not only win a championship, but to not even make a finals appearance. The CP3 coming off of one of the greatest playoff series in his career and getting hurt in a crucial game. Let's just say Houston went out in historic fashion, losing in the conference finals and then losing the next year to the same team in the second round, and eventually trading away CP3 for Russell Westbrook. And the consensus that started to build around Harden was that he couldn't be the best player on a championship team because not only would he have some disappointing performances in the postseason, but it seemed like every all-star talent that was brought to him has some type of issue with how he played or how the system was ran in Houston. And for a superstar that had such an Iron Man reputation for rarely missing games, at the age of 31 before getting traded to Brooklyn, Harden began to struggle with his conditioning. And whether it was intentional or not at the time, the mileage that he had put on his body throughout the years would catch up to him. And while playing in Brooklyn, he would suffer a grade 2 hamstring that still fucks with him to this day. Now, as the viewer, you might be asking yourself, damn, nigga, that intro is mad long. What the fuck that got to do with the title of this video? And my response would be Luka Doncic.
For three, Harden. And good. That's why.
Boy, Harden's telling Luka about it too.
Screen by DeAndre. Capella switched on to Luka. Luka with the step back three. Oh, yeah! Oh, yeah! If you don't know, now you know. Announcing his presence with authority at the end of the game, Harden.
You gotta love the young fella.
A player that is very similar in Harden's regard and what he means to his team's offense, and how I think that this player moving forward can actually be a detriment to what Dallas is trying to achieve building around this player. And that player is Luka Doncic. Now, I use the word detriment very loosely in this sentence because Luka is only 22 years old, and what he's managed to do in only 5 years in the NBA is already more than most NBA players have been able to accomplish throughout their whole career, let alone the star talent that he's already performing at a very young age. Now, I don't want to give him the title of already being a superstar that can't produce winning, because, I mean, shit, like, you take them off that roster, they a lottery team, you feel what I'm saying? But at the NBA level, once you become consistent enough and solidified as a superstar talent in the league, the fan base and the media just start to question whether your style of play can lead towards a championship. And once they get tired of the amazing numbers you put up and a few playoff exits, it'll always spark curiosity, and there will always be genuine questions as to whether your performances are contributing to winning at the highest level or whether the pieces around you fit or not. And while I feel that Luka deals with a combination of both, I highlight James Harden because although they are different players slightly, there is some truth to the perpetuated narrative that their style of play won't really lead to the success of winning championships, and it is part of the responsibility of why Harden still ringless to this day. And despite both of them being offensive juggernauts, it's similarities and tendencies that they have when they don't have the ball in their hands that really just hurt the team overall, both on offense and defense. If you've been watching my channel for quite some time now, I'm not a Dallas Mavericks fan or an NBA teams fan at all, to be honest with you. And my favorite player is Russ. But whenever Dallas comes up in the conversation in my videos, I always advocate that Dallas can definitely use a secondary scorer next to Luka. And then stars who've been in trade talks, such as Anthony Davis or even CJ McCollum in the past, or even 3-and-D players that they can really use. I've always advocated that Dallas should go out and get them because he definitely can use help on either end of the floor. Even more so specifically on the offensive end, as him having more of a consistent second scoring option will release some of the burden he has to carry on the offensive load for them to be competitive in most games throughout the season. But even in a hypothetical scenario where Luka gets that all-star teammate that requires the ball, he can't just be standing on the perimeter looking disinterested in the possession. You gotta find other ways to be effective on the floor without really needing the ball in your hands all the time. What makes players like Giannis or even a Jason Tatum or Curry very deadly on the offensive end is their ability, of course, to move without the ball and score without the ball. Of course, their teams and rosters be a lot deeper in this regard. Fair counterpoint to that would be that these teams have better playmakers and more shot creators available to them than Luka has in Dallas, but effort still applies. They're all superstars that require a certain level of touches, being that they're all 30-point scorers and the ball must be required to be in their hands to some extent. Of course, they're going to dominate the way they do with the ball. But at the same time, they let their buckets come within the flow of the offense. Whether it's running a screenplay or using your gravity to create some more space for your teammates, off-ball offense is definitely underrated, and there are plenty of NBA ball-dominant stars and NBA coaches that do not take advantage of this part of the game enough. Me personally, as an NBA fan, I'd love to see the amount of parity increase as Luka is becoming one of those up-and-coming superstars, and I'd love to see him play at one of the highest levels. But I'll be real with you, if Jason Kidd don't start making some adjustments and if Luka doesn't get out of the loop of hero ball, it's going to be very difficult for the Dallas Mavericks to compete for anything of significance in the coming years with Luka Doncic as the best player on their team. And especially if they don't add some help on that team offensively soon, because this level of play is not sustainable for successful deep playoff runs with a one-man army. On the offensive end, we know what Luka is capable of, being one of the league's best passers and scorers, leading the NBA in points per game, and he's averaging 33 a night while shooting 50% from the field and having a true shooting percentage of over 60%. Becoming the third player in NBA history to score 30 in 7 consecutive games to start off the NBA season. Not to mention that the man just recently tied LeBron and Wilt Chamberlain for the most 35-point triple-doubles in NBA history in only his 5th season, while currently leading the league in triple-doubles this season as well. And that is just a short list, a part of a longer list of record-breaking things that Luka has managed to accomplish in his 5-year tenure in the NBA. And we know that the monster he becomes in the NBA postseason, while also already being an elite player during the regular season. Now, in this season alone, we noticed that a slight shift in Luka Doncic's game has been him being more of a plus defender, currently 4th in the NBA in steals per game, and him creating more offense within the low post, whether it's him taking advantage of his size on a mismatch and scoring, or finding one of his teammates spotting up on the opposing end of the floor once a defense decides to collapse on him or double team. He's also been resorting more to his mid-range jumper, and one part of his game that I really like is when he goes up for a shot looking as if he's about to attempt it, and he's very good at analyzing the defense and being able to pass out of the shot last second to accurately dot one of his teammates. Now, throughout the years, we know that Luka and James Harden have received a lot of comparisons, being that they're both oversized guards with extraordinary passing vision and an amazing scoring ability. who love to both ISO and also run a lot of pick and roll. And their lack thereof on the defensive end, both being underrated on that end of the floor when they're actually trying. But very well known for overall giving an inconsistent effort on that side of the ball. But one thing that they majorly have in common in terms of how they run their team's offense is not only how ball dominant they are with the ball in their hands, or even their complications on the defensive end, but it is how often they slow the game down to go into their isolation possessions, and how much of a non-factor they become when they are playing off the ball. How their lazy body language off the ball at times can really lead to some stagnant offense or just 5-on-4 basketball play, with a lack of shot creation that has been poorly implemented into some of their roster. When I say lazy, or when I imply or emphasize how much they don't do off the ball, I'm well aware of the star players who do this from time to time in a game to conserve some of their energy for the offensive end. Like, you know, they have to carry a lot on the offensive end. I ain't denying that. And I believe that if Luka and Jason Kidd worked on this area of Luka's game within the Mavericks system, that not only would make Luka's life easier on the offensive end, as he wouldn't feel the need to make a hero play from possession to possession, and it would help get his teammates going earlier on in the game. Given that Luka already has a high level of gravity when he's on the floor, he can do this in a series of ways, including fake handoffs, having him in screen and roll action, actions where Dinwiddie might bring up the ball or might be trying to create some offense. They can have some actions ran for Luka when he doesn't have the ball in his hand, or putting him in better positions on the floor to make the next play. Alright, so boom, let's peep this possession from back in 2018. Luka's inbounding the ball, he gives it up to Porzingis, they fake the handoff, but look how glued Josh Hart has to remain to Luka to not get ran off the screen. Maxi Kleber sets the off-ball screen for Luka while he's cutting to the basket on a curl play. This slows down Josh Hart's momentum while guarding Luka and chasing him off the ball, giving Luka a semi-clear lane going to the basket. While cutting, he notices Lonzo at the rim with the pump fake, and while he does finish through two defenders hovering over him, he has the available option in the corner to get the open three. The pass is on time and on target. It didn't come from someone who's viewed as an elite playmaker. It came from Porzingis, and while he's skilled on the offensive end, he's never been known to be such an elite passer. All it takes is some trust and the right play being drawn up, and I feel like Luka could be a threat off the ball, but it does require some stamina and energy. Therefore, I understand him not moving like Steph Curry every game, feel me? We this loss from Detroit from a week ago. Luka's bringing up the ball, he gets trapped up a half court. Christian Wood rightfully runs to the top of the key near the free throw line, surveys the floor for a quick second, despite having multiple scoring options on the perimeter, just goes up to the basket and finishes for the bucket, putting the ball on the floor. Now, if you peep on another possession later on in the game, Luka gets trapped once again in the same game, gives a bounce pass to Maxi Kleber, and instead of surveying the floor or even trying to put the ball on the floor, because he cannot do so with the shot clock running down in a late game situation and knowing his role within the offense, he subconsciously passes the ball to a teammate and turns it over. And this is what we're talking about. I mean, like, look at the personnel he be having on the floor sometimes. Like, what the fuck is Kleber gonna do in that situation to create a shot? Now, don't get me wrong, Kleber is a very solid role player, and I'm not trying to make it seem like the rest of this Mavericks team is ass, as they are ranked 7th in offensive rating and 7th in effective field goal percentage, and they do have quality role players and spot-up shooters that can play off the ball and impact winning, given the right fit. But I feel like he's just on a team full of complementary pieces, and I've been said that they should start Christian Wood, but even he's a liability on the defensive end, along with Spencer Dinwiddie not being the greatest defender, but he's a pretty neutral one. They don't have a strong rim protector or rebounder, and this offense relies way too heavily on Luka Doncic in a way where I feel like their offense has another level it can get to if he allows himself to trust his teammates in certain possessions. And this is why I make the comparison to Harden, because not only can you pull away a lot of similarities in both of their play styles, but even the construction of their rosters is fairly similar. And obviously, I'm talking about the days that Harden was in Houston and before he got CP3. Give them some 3-and-D wings that can guard the perimeter and spot up when they get double teamed to kick out to. Give them a secondary ball handler that can put up 30 for you here and there. I'm a fringe all-star level big man that can set screens and finish around the basket at a decent rate. You have one role player that provides some hustle hustle energy on both ends. So the rest of the roster out with some decent to above average perimeter shooters. In all, when you mix those ingredients together with a young MVP caliber ball dominant superstar, you got yourself a recipe for a team that can make the playoffs without potentially needing the play-in, with the end result being at best a conference finals appearance or second round exit. Now, it's no secret that this Mavericks offense is clearly missing Jalen Brunson, as the Mavericks are only 1-5 this season when Luka scores less than 30 points, as Jalen Brunson's shot creation ability added another layer to this Mavericks offense. Since they've added Tim Hardaway to the starting lineup over Reggie Bullock, who have both had abysmal shooting performances to start off the season, he's actually been playing better and giving Luka another scoring option to rely on, but I don't know if you really want to bank on his consistency like that on offense. And fortunately for the Mavericks, and with the contract that Luka signed over the offseason, at least Dallas has him until the offseason of 2027. I'm not claiming that Luka's a selfish player or that he can't be the best player on a championship team, nor am I stating that Luka is incapable of playing off the ball. As Kobe said earlier on in the video, he's doing everything he can to keep his team above water. But if there's anything that is almost guaranteed at the NBA level, is that you cannot win a championship by yourself. And if Dallas doesn't make a major adjustment in their offensive game plan, or if they don't add some talent to this roster, then this team will only go as far as Luka takes them. And with the way this roster is currently constructed, I don't see that being any further than an early round exit in the Western Conference playoffs. Who that star talent would be with contracts nowadays and just the NBA landscape being the way it is, who knows? But I know overall the conclusion in this video, bruh, I just don't want Luka Doncic to be the next James Harden.